everybody. Welcome to Naked Sales. Don't worry, we keep our clothes on, but we strip down sales and present the bare essentials of selling. I'm your host, Chris Miller from Miller Sales Consulting, and today I'm super excited for my guest, Khurshid Anis. And today we're going to talk about the secrets to creating a high-performing sales culture. So welcome, Khurshid. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Christine. That was such a great video. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. Okay, but before we get started, I want to tell you all a little bit about Khurshid and why I'm so excited to have her here to talk about this subject with us. So currently, she's VP, Senior HR Business Partner with KeyBank. She has also worked in the US and India, as well as consulted and managed large teams in Canada, UK, Europe, Singapore, and the UAE. She's actively involved in the future of work, HR and talent strategy, people analytics, culture change, organization redesign, and transformation strategies. So yeah, she's got expertise and insights to share. And I like to call them secrets. I know Khurshid doesn't use that word, but I think they're secrets because we don't get this information often. She's also a business psychologist, and she enjoys executive coaching and advising organizations, leveraging people as a competitive advantage. And wow, that's such a true statement because your people truly are a competitive advantage, which is why your sales culture is so important today, because that's also a competitive advantage. So feel free to say hi in the chat. We're looking for your questions and comments. So check in with us. We're going to keep our eye on them. And let's get to it and talk about the secrets to creating a high performance sales culture. So again, welcome, Khurshid. Such a great topic and so excited to have you here with us today.
Likewise, Christine. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun, working and collaborating with you. And look forward to all your tough questions. You always, you just get a little more out of me than anyone else can.
Well, because so often we wonder what's going on in the minds of HR or the organization, right, and we don't really have the opportunity to ask. So when I have the opportunity to ask, I like to ask the question. So don't be shy, for all of you watching live. Ask those questions because we don't often get this opportunity. So I want to start with the world of sales. It's changing, and it's changing a lot. So how do you see it from your perspective, the world of sales changing?
Big time. Buying behaviors have changed so dramatically. It has required us to evolve and adapt our buying and selling practices, right? Buyers, with all the information that is available today online and on professional reviews and websites such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, you name it, Amazon. There's so much information available. There's so much reviews available, and then there are so many analytical reports, and every buyer has their own data and reporting. So buyers have become very knowledgeable. They have access to all the information in the world. And before even they begin their buying journey, they have done a lot of research already.
So true.
Right? So what happens is sellers now have to not only match that level of sophistication their potential buyers have, but they also have to add something more to it. Right? Otherwise, if you're not going to add anything more than what I know, why will I buy your product or service? What good it is going to do to me?
Right. So why do I need a salesperson?
Exactly. So, to be able to match that level of sophistication, our selling processes have evolved dramatically. And you have to be very well informed as a seller. You cannot be a generalist. Right? You have to bring a team with you on the first day that are subject matter experts, and they can go into the depths and answer all the questions that your buyers have. If you keep it for the subsequent visits, those subsequent visits would never happen because buyers did not get the information they were looking for from you. So we are looking at our sales in a way where we say, hey, it's more about consultative selling. And more than selling, it is really about strategic partnership with your potential buyers, right? You are not selling a product, you're trying to help them solve some very complex and critical problems they have in their business so that they can win in the marketplace. It's not about you anymore.
that that is so true. And so, let's look at it from a leadership position or a company position. To develop this culture of new age sellers that we need to have, that buyers want, you know, what are those characteristics? I know there are a lot of business that think, oh, to be modern, and sort of new age selling, I throw a ping pong table in the conference room and we have beer on Fridays. And so we take our old way of doing things. We kind of keep those the same, but we make it fun and funky, right? See a lot of that going on. But in your opinion, what are the characteristics of a high performance sales culture?
Yeah, great question, Christine. But I'm really surprised that those ping pong tables and happy hours are still doing rounds. All
Yeah.
right, guys, we gotta move beyond that. But before I start answering that question for you, Chris, I was just reviewing some really good research that is out there, very sophisticated research, which said that, most of the B2B buying and selling has moved online on digital platforms, and it has become a digital experience. And some of the really good statistics, it's not limited to small ticket items or fast moving parts. Even more complex products and services are being reviewed, bought, and managed online via digital experiences. 70% of B2B is open to digital and remote purchases in excess of $50,000. And of that, 27% is spending more than $500,000 on digital platforms. So it's huge, right? Think of all the bigger companies, right? The middle market kind of companies. They really have to evolve fast. And likewise, the smaller ones small businesses have to evolve accordingly, right? So
Right.
now turning back to your question about, what the culture and how do you really enable it. Look, high performing sales team is one of the greatest source of competitive advantage any organization can have. You can have a brilliant product. Yes. You can have a brilliant product and a fantastic service, but if your sales force is not able to sell it, what good is it? It's not going to generate any commercial value or revenue out of it. So you guys may or may not know, we go to great lengths to build and reward and retain such teams that consistently win in the marketplace, right? Organizations have to build environments that are conducive to that high performance, right? We have to inspire and enable and empower, them to do their lives' best work. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot hire an athlete, tie their legs, and ask them to run, right?
Wow, that's a fantastic quote. And I know a
So,
lot of salespeople probably feel that way, and sales leaders too,
yeah,
managers that are ready to go,
yes,
and but aren't able to go, even
yeah,
if they know the path of what they need to do to win, or what they need to change their department to win. Because what you were describing was a shift from outside selling to inside selling, and there always be a need for field reps in certain industries, but there is a big shift because as consumers, we, on a personal level, are used to being able to buy and shop that way for all our personal products.
true.
So, a B2B circumstance, we want to be able to do the same thing,
Yeah,
when it's convenient for us, especially with so much research. Then pull in an expert or pull in someone from the sales department when we're ready to have those high level conversations where we need some help with strategy or figuring
yeah,
out how this will work for their business.
true.
So how do we do it, right? So
That's a
how do
big
we
question.
do it? So we can all nod our heads in agreement. And again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them here, and we'll see them. But how do we do it? Because we can talk all day and say this is the way it should be, and we need this great culture, and we want our sales leaders and our salespeople to not have their legs tied when they need to run. But how? So how do we do it?
That's $1 million question. So look, high performing sales culture. Um, is not imaginary. It's not a branding thing, and it's not a publicity gimmick. Okay. It is a very well defined, calculated, mathematical, and strategic way of doing and building this kind of culture. Okay. It does not happen on a happy hour, and it certainly does not happen on a ping pong table. It is much more evolved, it's much more deep, and much more resourceful that. And when organizations are able to do it right, it just unlocks that hidden potential that every organization has within them, and it drives real tangible business value. So people who have not experienced this or not explored this, I would encourage them to give some thought to it. Now, talking about what characterizes this high performing sales culture, right? There's a lot, but let's talk about the foundation, because I believe that any organizations, once they get the foundation right, they can build their culture on top of it, and it may not be one size fit all. It has to be personal. It has to be relevant to what your business model is and what you're selling and who your buyers are. So something that you would stand as real important pillars that will support a high performing sales culture today is innovation, simplification, and digitization of your end-to-end buying and selling process.
Okay, are you going to go into details? Can you explain some of that?
Absolutely. So, right, look, there's so much advanced technology available today. There's so much data and analytics that plays a very important role, right? A central role. We are embedding artificial intelligence throughout the commercial engine to improve seller focus and help them make better decisions. We are empowering you to do more targeted selling, right? To be able to use the technology and to be able to use the data and make good use of it, our traditional selling models have to change. Our traditional sellers will have to get out of their own way, right? And another, it'll lead me to another characteristics, which is continuous learning and change agility, right? It's a cornerstone of any high performing work culture. And it's a two-way street, right? Organizations must provide the support and the learning resources. And equally important is that employees own their own reskilling agenda.
Yes.
We just don't have the resource and bandwidth to run after you, right? We'll come halfway with the resources. You come halfway, take them, learn, and go forward, right? So that's a really important piece of a high performing sales culture.
Yeah.
And another is clearly defined goals and measurement criterias, right? Well aligned accountability for sales management and execution rigor, and frequent performance assessments, right? Feedback and coaching loops, so that you don't let hindrances go on for long. You don't wait until the year end to find out what was not working, right? You
Yes.
want to be fast, you want to be agile in resolving those so that your sales force are able to pivot and change the direction as and when needed. Ultimately, that positions them for better success, a bigger success. And last but not the least, really important is having a pay for performance plan, right? Not only for the account executives, your individual sellers, uh, also for the sales hierarchy, sales management, sales executives. That is important. And now with so much data and analytics available within the organization, financial data, HR data, people data, and now that selling is evolving into a team sport, a real team sport, consultative partnership, cross-functional teams who come together to make that sale happen, they have to have skin in the game. So or pay for performance, their pay needs to be tied to the performance of that ultimate sale. And I would include, you know, uh, uh, customer service into it. I would include product partners into it, sales management into it, and anyone that comes together to form that deal team.
Yeah. So I want to hit on a few points that you brought up, because you brought up a lot of good stuff about continual learning, that right mindset, that the company should be providing resources for that sales team to grow and evolve. But then the members of that sales team have to be willing to learn new things and evolve. And that's a big challenge, I know, with some organizations, especially if they have people on their team that are really nice, who they like, but they might have the mindset of, I'm no good at tech, or I've always done it this way and it works really well, right? And then what do we do about that? And that can be a real roadblock to this culture that you're describing, to this successful career, and this successful business mindset that you're describing. And so I think it's important for all of us in sales to realize that it's not an option not to learn and evolve. Really, this industry is not only changing, but it will continue to change. So if you learn some new technology today, you can't check the box and say, I'm a learner, I'm done, because 6 months, a year from now, 2 years from now, there's going to be something else you're going to need to learn and do. Right. And if you're willing to do that, I think, and your team is willing to do that, or as a leader, you're willing to implement that too, because there's some people in sales who are hungry for this, and they have leaders that are resistant, right? So it's got to be everybody. You have to look at all the pieces. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's just, I think, an important piece that's happening that was forced a lot of this past year with the COVID restrictions and everyone working from home forced us, because some models had to change and the technology had to be embraced, but that it's not done, that this is part of this culture that you described. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I'd like people to, realize that in their organization, this is important, or on a personal level, this is really important.
It is non-negotiable. It's not only important, but it is non-negotiable today.
Yeah. And how do you, so here's some, I'm getting on the inside, right? So there are a lot of people who went through transition this year. Either they lost their jobs, they're furloughed, maybe they've spent some time away and thought, I'm redefining my life goals. And I don't really like where I'm at, so I'm looking for a new job. How, if you were this learner, if you were this person that we're describing, how do you translate that to someone on the other side at HR, to a recruiter? How do you get that story across? Hey, I'm that person. I'm this person that you want to hire. What do people see and notice?
Great.
That's cons, I would guess too,
Yeah, I agree. So now that part has also changed a lot, right? So much of recruiting that used to happen on a piece of paper with your resume now has moved online, right? As soon as I open up a role for, let's say, a sales executive or sales manager or an account executive, there are a lot of them, right? We get applications in hundreds. Okay, now to go and sort them out, what I see my recruiters, myself, and my hiring managers do is they immediately go to LinkedIn and check out who you are, right? So if you think you have done the learning, if you think you are relevant, make sure that your digital presence is available for everyone to see. Do not remain a hidden secret.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have your LinkedIn profile completed, if you don't have your picture on, if there's nothing to read about you, how do I know what you are all about? What have you been doing? So building that presence, digital presence, is very critical. And from there, we go and select who you want to meet.
That's, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's so important to be known for what you know, right? And not as a salesperson or necessarily a sales leader, whatever your role is. Be known for what you know. To me, I talk about this in personal branding. I spend a lot of time training people and coaching them on LinkedIn too. Do that. And you can do that within your organization. You're not offending anybody. You're not making it look like you're looking for a job. Whatever your industry is, if you know that industry, or you know how to help your customers in that industry, and you read resources and share all that, or build out your profile and include those certifications that you have, or the knowledge that you have, so people can see it. Now, I assumed people in your role were looking at LinkedIn, but I didn't know necessarily it was like the go-to. So to be noticed, people get those LinkedIn profiles cleaned up and up to date, and post and share. Don't be the person that just watches and clicks.
Yeah, do something on it.
Share a thought. Share a thought about the article you're sharing. Good stuff. So that if you're thinking about making a change for whatever reason that may be, if someone's checking you out, that's where they're going to go, and they're going to determine if you're going to fit into their culture. So let's say from an AE and a sales leader perspective, we have some people watching that are going, there's some room for improvement here. I can do better. I can be better. I don't want to miss the boat. I love this industry. What can they do? What can they do now?
Yeah, good question. And look, the industry needs people like you all. We need more sellers who are willing to get out of their own way, learn, and help us grow our business. Right? Every organization, for-profit organization, desperately needs those people because we have missions, we have commitments to meet. We want a business to grow. We want our stakeholders to get good returns. The only way we can do it is when you, the sales force, generates more revenue. So we need those people. It's not easy to hire these kind of people. So if you're hidden somewhere, please let us know about it.
But what if you want to improve yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you why, Christine, that improvement is so important, because once I have seen you on your LinkedIn and when I call you for an interview, I'm doing a behavioral interview with you. So I'm really going into the depths of finding out whether you have what it takes to be successful in these roles. And I'll tell you, sales roles are not easy. So if you're looking for an easy 9 to 5, it may not work. And you have to learn continuously. You cannot learn, you cannot say that you learned 2 years ago and you're relevant today. It's just did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the account executives or relationship managers, one of the biggest learning opportunity for them is to see how virtual sale happens. It is very different than in-person selling. You may be great in in-person selling, but if you don't know how to sell virtually, or if you don't know how to start a relationship online, that's a missed opportunity. Right. So learn digital sales, learn virtual selling, because our buyers are buying online. They are reviewing us online. And another thing that I always see is, account executives, they don't control the selling process anymore. It is controlled by your buyers. So let go of trying to control everything. It is a strategic partnership. It is a team sport, and it takes a lot to make a successful sale. You cannot do it alone. Whether you're selling to a small business or a mid-sized business, or forget about the large corporations. So that learning is important, and account executives really have to get comfortable with transparency into the inside of the organization. There's so much transparency in how you are building the pipeline. You don't build a pipeline, you get an email from a sales manager. If your sales manager doesn't send you an email, they get an email from human resource or finance saying, Mr. Sales Manager, what's happening? We don't see pipeline. That will let us predict it's going to convert into a sale at the year end. You may not be meeting your targets. And we do this very often, not just at the year end. We do it every quarter, trying to do it every month. So your performance, you really have to own it. And I will shift my focus now to the sales managers, because they are a very important piece in this game. Right? Their jobs has fundamentally changed. Right? They are having to hire and retain and enable and empower a very high performing sales team. And these account executives, they look up to their manager to learn from. So if the manager is outdated in their way of working, unfortunately, the AEs will miss out on the opportunity to learn from their executives and their managers. So again, very important for managers to learn. I have seen a lot of managers who's like, oh, I'm a manager, I don't need to learn. No, that's not right. You got to learn. Everyone needs to learn. And they have to get comfortable holding their teams accountable, have transparent feedback and coaching discussions on an ongoing basis. Right? That is what really drives performance. That is what drives learning. Um, and ultimately, they have to keep a very tight eye on performance, not only for the individual but for the teams and multiple teams if they're managing those multiple teams. And let's say after you have exhausted all the resources, you've given enough time, if there is still lack of performance, then don't be afraid of having tough conversations and making tough decisions.
Right. Unfortunately, that's a part of management, those tough conversations and tough decisions. So interesting how HR has evolved into really, we talk about partnerships, team sports, that HR is part of the sales team now, paying attention to these things when years ago, it might have been a department that helped you process applications, get people hired and onboarded. Now it really is a department that is partnering with sales, at least in the top organizations, the ones that are evolving, because it's so necessary to helping monitor and hold teams accountable. And earlier you spoke about pay for performance, and for years, and still in many organizations, it's the same way. And comp plans are always tricky, but like you had a budget or a goal. And if a salesperson or a team met that goal, yay, we all won. But the goal might not have had anything to do with what the goals of the company were. Let's say they had a new product they wanted to sell. Was there a comp piece attached to that new product? If they wanted to grow their new business, was there a comp piece attached to that? If they wanted to grow their existing business, how is that all factored in? Because one number doesn't necessarily tell the story, good or bad, of what's happening with a particular sales individual or sales team, or even in an organization. And I think this culture of these business departments working together within an organization to build out a plan of what do we want to see happen for our company. Now let's connect that with sales. Let's connect comp to that goal, and let's hold people accountable to it, is amazing. It's not rocket science, but yet it is a different model than many of the older heritage organizations. That's not how they were before. And so there's a bit of a shift that's happening if they want to change it to where, to where it should be today. And then to provide the tools and the training and the support to help people achieve these goals. I mean, it's like, from a sales perspective, it's a beautiful package with a bow, but it's not that easy. That's the right from all departments. It is not that easy.
Okay, so now that question of yours is a trap. And now you're really asking me for some really deep-rooted secrets. And you know what? I promised you I'll give them to you and your network. Okay. So look, those days are gone where everything used to happen in a way where the field resources never knew what the goals were, what the performance or expectations were. Now, with so much sophistication in what finance does, so much sophistication in data and analytics, and so much sophistication with the HR business partners, we try very hard to make it transparent to each and every person whose performance is driving revenue. Okay, so when I say we have goals, we publish those goals at the end of the year for the next year. And it gives you 100% transparency on what are the components of those goals, what will you have to do, and how much will you have to do for us to say that you have met your yearly goal or met your bi-yearly goal or whatever you have it. There are no secrets in it. There's transparency. So if there are any account executives out here listening, if you do not know, go to your finance, go to your sales leaders, go to your human resource business partners and ask them. When people come and ask me, I'm more than happy to provide them the transparency, because you know what that does is it brings the AE and our goals and the support team all on the same page and on the same team. And that's exactly what we want. We are not working our goals or pay or whatever against you. We want you to make more money. That's our goal.
Yeah.
So
sales people want to make more money.
Right? But I will also tell you, now you want to hear this, meeting goals and making budget is the baseline. Okay, if that does not happen, any further discussion is unwarranted. You will not get paid for your performance because there is no performance. There has to be performance, and this is the role. If you don't like getting paid for your performance, there may be other roles. This is not the one.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're at the baseline, we then look at a lot of qualitative factors, right? If you brought in a new business, Christine, what is the size of that new business? What is it doing to, doing for our strategy or our mission or our end goal? We factor that into a qualitative measure. Then customer retention, right? Who lost the customer and why did we lose the customer? And it's not just a verbal discussion. There's so many metrics around it. So it's pretty scientific. It's not based on anyone's whims and fancies or likes or dislikes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then managing risk. How well are you managing the risk for the organization? You are the first point for the organization to manage risk these days. These are all qualitative factors. And then another really important criteria is, are you performing as an individual or are you performing yourself and then adding to the team? There are team goals to be met. So there is peer-to-peer accountability built into these goals and plans.
There's so much there. I think one of the most important things that you said that I think is hard for a lot of people to hear is that meeting your goal is an expectation. And I know that, let's say we rank people 1 to 5 if we're doing a review, and someone from the sales team says, I met my goal, I should get a 5. Well, meeting your goal is expectation. That's like for someone who is a salaried worker that is expected to work 40 hours a week. Well, that you showed up for 40 hours is the expectation, if that's what the job is, right? But that doesn't mean you're exceeding your goal. It doesn't mean you're exceptional at what you do. That means you met the bar, right? And what are you doing? Are you going above and beyond to help the team? Have you saved a client that was at risk and got very strategic and creative? And I love that you brought that up because that's hard to hear. And I've been in sales for a long time too. It really is hard to process that because we put so much emphasis on hitting that number and you're a winner, and winner equating to exceptional. Hitting that number is great. Yes, good news. We're not discounting that. However, there's more. And if you're an individual performer that wants to rise to the top, or if you're a sales leader that wants to have this amazing team, think about all these things that Khurshid just brought up. They're very powerful, not easy to do and not easy to look at sometimes because it's a lot of change, or it might include having some difficult conversations, but so important in the work of sales. So thank you for sharing that, Khurshid. And we're getting towards the end here. So is there one thing, if someone wants to know one thing to try to create this high performance sales culture, what would it be? I mean, we could talk for hours about this. I'd love to talk to you about job descriptions. And I mean, like, things are changing in the HR world. So we'll have, you're going to have to come back on again. But what's one thing for this sales culture piece that people could do?
That's great question. Christine, I'd say that something that is very foundational is changing your mindset and changing your behavior. Just forget what you've been doing thus far. It does not work anymore because the world has changed. We know that you guys are intelligent. We know that you guys are smart, fearless. Learn new ways of working. You will be very successful. And guess what? The organizations are hungry to pay for your performance and to help you maximize your income.
Awesome. Change your mindset. One easy step. Just start thinking differently to get you on the right path. Thank you, Khurshid. If people want to connect with you, thank you, ask you a question, what's the best way for them to reach you?
LinkedIn.
Gotta love LinkedIn. Well, thank you so much. The time just flew by. And I mean, I want to go back and rewatch what we just talked about, because I know there's stuff that I missed. I want to digest some more because you brought so many good points up. So I so appreciate you being here, sharing your insights, giving us a peek at the inside, the thought process that's going on in the HR global world, because that's where you hang out and speak and work all over the world. And this change is happening with sales. So I so appreciate your insight and your expertise, and look forward to having you join me again for another episode of Naked Sales. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much, Christian. This was fun. And I promise I'll bring more secrets next time.
All righty. Good stuff.